There's still so much discussion about a deal between Nixon and
President Ford.
that this was a deal worked out. And so I'm very interested in the fact that you've done quite a bit of research on this and are relatively confident that there was no deal.
I'm 100% confident there was no deal. There was no deal. Because, and the reason I know that is when Ford sent his lawyer, Benton Becker, to negotiate with Nixon and San Clemente, and Benton and I have talked about this. Benton was only about 30 years, a very young lawyer at that time. There was no deal because Nixon, in his typical difficult personality way, was agonizing over what to do. He knew that if he accepted the pardon, this would be an admission of guilt. If you accept a pardon, you're saying, okay, I was guilty, that's why I need the pardon. Ergo, there was no deal. I mean, Nixon had to eat crow. And remember, Nixon's attitude to Ford was not, okay, this will be a good deal so that you can come into the presidency, I'm going to set you up, but Jerry, you're my insurance card, because this country doesn't want you to be our president. They don't think you're competent to be president because you seem a little slow, you seem a little clumsy. You're my insurance. You're not a flashy politician. You'll never make it.
So you have this, have you written a book about, several books about this?
I've written some articles about this, but not a book about President Ford. I'm working on a book about President Ford as a statesman. In fact, you've gotten sort of my framework. I'm looking at him in terms of classical authors and the founding generation, and also from the Renaissance perspective. There's kind of an interesting gloss there. So I'm taking a look at him as a timeless, as an individual who expresses timeless principles of statesmanship in both his person, his Republican little r, Republican simplicity, his civic virtue, and all the personal qualities he had as a man. And this is why you've got to be bullish on Gerald R. Ford. His reputation continues to rise. I think it will continue. There's not going to be any hidden papers in the archives, I don't think, that would show anything untoward. Did he have his flaws? Of course he had his flaws. He knew better. He was too smart to do this whip inflation now routine of his with the little win buttons he had. It was kind of superficial, and he got his handlers to talk him into it, and he was too smart an economist to do that. He personally knew that he betrayed Nelson Rockefeller by caving to the conservative wing of the Republican Party when he said, I'm going to dump Nelson Rockefeller as the vice president and go with Bob Dole. He personally felt he knew that it was probably the right decision to do because the Republican Party in the country were moving more conservative. But he felt that it was a personal betrayal, and so he was not at peace with that. Did he have his flaws? Of course he had his flaws. But in an hour speech, all I can do is, okay, I'm going to focus on 5 qualities of statesmanship that I think he exhibited.
Thank you for reading the part of his speech. You hear of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. You don't hear about this speech of Ford's, which is beautiful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that you appreciated that, because he really, he was somebody who gave very thoughtful speeches. He looked at them closely, the major speeches. The Bicentennial of America, I mean, he wanted to give good, thoughtful speeches. They really are. His 4th of July speech, 1976, read it. Go back and read it. It is a great paean to all of our American ideals. It'll make you weep for our country, for the love of this country, and the way a generation that fought hard for this country, your generation, sir, just honored us so much, and he captures it so beautifully. You've been a great audience. I tell you, it's
a long drive.
This is the smallest audience I've ever addressed, but you know what? Certainly among the best.
Thank you for doing it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Very pleased to have you here.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're a great audience.
We'll go.